Okay, so this is my kind of final exam assignment for Math 180. So the main purpose of the class, it's a business calculus course, so it's like applied calculus, I guess you could say. With me being a finance major, these like kind of concepts that we're learning are super important to me because I know that I'll use them later on. So it's not like a typical math course where you're kind of just learning things that you probably won't use in the real world or for your profession, for example. This course for a finance major, though, is super important, and I know it'll help me later on, learning how to apply these mathematical concepts to kind of like real world problems. So kind of like I said earlier, it focuses on applying mathematics in a professional business world. So when you actually have, company problems, company issues that require a lot of mathematics, this is kind of the class that's gonna help you with that. So it's all math that you're gonna use in the real world. And then for me, being a finance major, I know that I'll use a lot of the concepts in my future finance and accounting classes because I know those require a lot of math. And this course is kind of going to help me get a head start on all that, knowing how to apply the calculus in courses. So the resources used are OneNote, Pearson's, asking questions in class, and then emailing my teacher assistant for my section. In terms of OneNote, I thought that it was used pretty nicely. It was a new concept to me. I've never used it before, but I felt like it was pretty straightforward, and I'm glad that obviously this course used a pretty easy interface for like in-class assignments and stuff like that. Pearson's I liked. I thought it was really helpful during with some sections that I'll get into later on in the presentation. But again, that was a new thing to me, so I know for new students, new incoming freshmen, or possibly sophomores, I know that Pearson's can kind of be, or MyLab can kind of be confusing because I haven't used it before. That's how it was for me. And it's laid out pretty nicely. It's not very confusing. I think Pearson's is the right thing to use. Asking questions in class is probably the main resource that I used. With this course, I noticed that there was less kind of like examples and teaching involved in the actual course, and it was more time to work, obviously on the in-class activities. And without asking questions to the teacher assistants, I would be pretty lost. They helped me kind of get through all of the in-class stuff. And while it was some concepts that I already knew, a lot of it kind of was new. And they kind of helped integrate it with the concepts that I did know. So they really helped me push through the assignments or the activities that I didn't really know as much. And then also emailing my section's teacher assistant, that helped me as well. I was in section C, so I had Muhammad, and he was good. He responded pretty fast, and he kind of cleared up any questions that I had outside of class. In terms of the homework, I think MyLab is laid out pretty well with the kind of assignments in order and the questions and stuff like that. The due dates weren't consistent all semester. They kind of changed like all year long. That was kind of stressful as a student because you didn't know when things were actually going to be due. Like for example, we had a lot of the homework due at one day, and a lot of that was things that we haven't even worked on yet in class. And so I was kind of forced to do those assignments by the due date, and then next class it would kind of get brought up, and then the due dates would change. So I feel like if the due dates can just be laid out by the first day of class, it would be a lot easier. I also think there should be more algebra review because for a lot of us, it's been a long time since we've done algebra and other parts of math. And I feel like that would make the actual course a lot easier. Because while a lot of it is new concepts, some of it is just remembering things that you learned in high school. So I think a little bit of review would be beneficial. I really like the integration of videos and examples in MyLab while doing the homework. That really helped, especially with things that you were not familiar with at all. It really helped teach a lot better. I also like the homework was super time consuming, which I realized is kind of kind of part of the course, but that's just my feedback. I thought OneNote was super helpful. I wish some days I had a little bit of a better structure. I think some days it was a little cluttered in class. I did really like the idea of an overall questions page where all of the students can post questions on and get their answer and everyone can see it. Also, whenever we were supposed to like submit an entry on OneNote of our work, that wasn't very clear on how to do that. So I think a little bit of clearance there could be helpful. In terms of concerns, I was a little unprepared for how the class would be in terms of instructors not having predetermined solutions, because I have not had a class like that before. And I feel like in order to prepare students more, you can kind of help them more during the process, along the way, and help work out more problems on the board, giving a visual to students. Because while you're coming in without a predetermined solution, at least working it out on the board can help. And also giving more examples. I feel like if more examples were given, it would help students grasp the concept a little bit better. And once again, I think all the due dates and assignments need to be laid out and set in stone by the first day of class or on the syllabus. And then once again, I think more examples could be worked out in class. But overall, I think it was a pretty good course. It's definitely going to help applying the calculus in a business and professional standpoint in the future. And I think it's a super beneficial class.